Welcome to this episode of Havoc Wargaming, dedicated to bringing you the uncommon. For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Ron, and today we're going to learn how to play Pulp Alley by way of the solo rules. Let's get started. And we're going to try Pulp Alley. We'll be using the solo cards. Now, in the solo game, the alternating initiative or action system provided by one of the players holding the cone or being in the position of director, that is done away with. Instead, it's played more like an I go, you go game, where one side will do all of its activations and then the other. And for the first three of those activations, you will choose a card for each of them. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give it a try and give you a chance to see this in action in a gameplay video.
The scenario we're playing is Smash and Grab, which is a simple battle with one side versus another. You'll look at the board, you'll see those yellow discs. Those mark 5 objectives. The first is a Stygian dagger. That's the major objective. Then scattered around it we have 4 minor objectives. The talkative bystander, the beggar, the foreign agent, and the corrupt officer.
This is the first league. This is the crew of the SS Venture, commanded by Captain Englehorn, who is the leader. His sidekick is Jane Driscoll over here. He is supported by 2 allies, which are the ship's cook, Lumpy, and Ben Hayes over here. And then they have Choi, who is a stowaway they found on board and is a martial artist. Here on the other side is the Legio Patrio Nostra. These are rogue members of the French Foreign Legion. They've left the service of France and now serve as soldiers of fortune, as mercenaries, endeavoring to look after their own purposes. They are led by the hardened veteran, their leader, Captain LaForge here. Just next to him, his sidekick is the shrewd daredevil Alex McGowan. Then Martel, he is an ally, and Crafty just here. Next to him, another ally, Samson. He's a brute, just here with the beard. Then Doc Ward, he is the doctor of the group. And lastly, Marcel, a follower. He is sharp. So this is the Legio Patrio Nostra. Now, when we play a solo game, one side will end up operating as what are called the bot league. And for this game, that's going to be the Legio Patria Nostra, these guys here. When it's their turn to activate, they will activate in the order of which is closest to any of the SS Venture crew. Let's go ahead and get this game started. We're going to go ahead now and get started. The figures are on the board. Now, as I mentioned earlier, when you play with a solo game, you go with one league at a time. I'm going to go ahead and start with the bot league because that puts a little bit more of a challenge on our opponents. So we'll start by activating them. They're all over here behind the temple. So I'm going to go ahead and move the top of the temple because they're going to be moving through it, no doubt. And we're going to go ahead and pull our first solo card. So we're going to activate their captain, their leader, Captain LaForge. We get move along. There's no special effect for that. So he can just go ahead and do his action. He'll go ahead and move for 60 here. Now I'm going to go ahead and move him a little bit further. He'll go to a run so that he'll be ready to take that point next turn. You can't do that this turn because you can't do the run and do an action. So we'll go ahead and activate. I'm going to go ahead and activate Alex McGowan, his sidekick. He gets Watch Your Head. This character encounters a peril immediately, so he has to do a challenge. Now, in this case, it's a challenge on the bottom of the card. That's the challenge there at the bottom. The roll 1 success or on finesse or cunning. His finesse is 3d6. His cunning is 3d8. So that's the one he's going to use. So we're going to go ahead and attempt to roll that. He only needed one, which is good because that's all he got. So he passes that, and he can go ahead and make his move. He's going to go ahead and move to cover just here. Now we'll have to move one more of the figures, pulling a card, I mean. So we'll go ahead and we'll move Martel. Martel gets a card. His card is all clear. This character ignores all perils, including perilous areas and bursts. This will last till the end of the turn. So what we do is we place that under his card as a reminder that he has that till the end of the turn. So no perils this turn. Unfortunately, that won't really matter a lot, I don't think. We're going to go ahead and move him. I'm going to go ahead and move him a full 12 out towards the well. Now from here on, those were the 3 activations that we had to roll those cards for. We now are free to ignore that for the rest of the Legio Patria Nostra's turns. So I'll go ahead and I will move Doc Ward. Doc Ward will take a position here next to Alex McGowan, and Samson will likewise take a position and cover here, covering LaForge, and Marcel will follow behind. So that finishes all the activations for the Legio Patria Nostra. So now for the SS Venture. We're going to go ahead and we're going to activate Captain Englehart first. So he pulls his solo card. His solo card reads Despair. The character ignores the result of the next recovery check regardless of the result. See, he gets to attach it so he can use that when he needs it. So we'll place that under Captain Englehorn. And he's going to go ahead and move 6. This will take him over here to the agent. Now, whenever you approach a peril, when you try to take a peril, you have to pull a challenge card for the challenge of approaching the dangerous figure. In this case, you use the bottom of the card, the challenge, which in this card is challenge, roll 1 success with cunning. If he fails, he'll take a hit. This is going to be pretty easy, I would argue, for our hero. He has 3d10 cunning. He only needed 1 success. He only gets 1 success, but he does manage to beat the peril. So now he's going to play for the plot point itself. This is to actually control the foreign agent there. So he draws another card. It's the same thing as before. There'll be a challenge. This time he has to roll 3 successes with might, finesse, or cunning. Now, if this had been a peril, if he failed any of those rolls, if he failed 1, he would end up taking the 3 hits that are listed on the bottom there. Peril, 3 hits have failed. But you do not take hits when you're playing for a plot point challenge. Also, if he doesn't manage to make all 3 on a peril challenge, if you have to make 3 and you miss any of them, you will end up taking the damage listed on the card. But in the case of playing for the actual plot point, you can add them up. So we'll put a little marker on there if he makes less than 3, which is possible. That's a somewhat hard roll. His might is 2d8, so he couldn't do that. His cunning is 3d10, so that's what he's going to use. 3d10. So we go ahead and we roll the dice for the 3d10. 1, 2 10s and a 6. He actually does play that. He manages to take our agent here. We'll put him over off the table here, and we will take our first reward card. This is what he gains by having taken that position, besides victory points towards winning the game. So you'll see this is a reward card. Until the end of this scenario, he gets that bonus above. While in your character's control, you draw +1 additional fortune card. That won't affect us in this game. We're not using fortune cards. On the bottom, for holding this card at the end of the game, your league receives +1 tip. The Pulp Alley has sort of a built-in campaign system. Everything you do during a game will give you various bonuses and pluses that help your characters improve over time. Some of the games are actually linked together to form campaigns. There's a number of campaigns available from Pulp Alley, but any game you play at all will continue in your league's history and improve them over time if you want to keep track and view. Like this game, I'm not giving anybody permanent points for, but that would be an option typically. And so that's what that bottom tip would be. That would give him a tip that he could use in some later game to give him an advantage at the beginning of the game. We're going to go ahead now and try to move his second mate. Well, we'll activate his second mate, Jane Driscoll. Jane Driscoll pulls her solo card, and she gets Double Down. In fact, she draws and plays 2 solo cards on the enemy closest to this character. As always, select one enemy at random if you are unable to determine the closest. So let's determine who that's going to be. It's got to be, yeah, that's going to be Martel over there. 2 of the French have very similar names, Martel and Marcel. But this is Martel. He's the closest, being halfway to that well. I'm going to go ahead and put this on him to remind me that he's going to get 2 cards. Now, you'll notice that there are some markers, those yellow markers on the table. Those mark our objectives. There's various other markers. This game could have a lot of markers on the table, but you can also put them directly on the player's cards. I'm putting that card on the table because, one, we're videotaping this to help me remind me what we're doing. But I could have easily have just put it on their card and to help keep the table from being uncluttered. So you don't have to put these markers on the table. The yellow ones for the objectives are nice because in reality the objectives should all be a certain size, their bases, so that multiple people can't contest the same one. So I usually use the marker itself, the yellow marker, to be what you have to be in base-to-base contact with to activate. All right, that was Driscoll. We haven't moved Driscoll yet. Driscoll's gonna go ahead and run over to this objective, to the corrupt official. Because she ran, she can't actually try to take that plot point on this turn, so that's the end of her turn. We will now try to activate Ben Hayes, just here. Ben Hayes is one of the crew members. He gets, watch out, this effect encounters the peril immediately. Use the challenge below, though this is not good. He has to make 3 successes on might, finesse, or cunning. This is a problem because he is only an ally. So nothing he has can make 3 successes. Nothing at all, let alone might, finesse, or cunning. So what that means is he's going to automatically fail. Now remember I mentioned this would normally have done 3 hits. 3 hits if it was a normal peril. See, it says roll 3 successes, the damage is 3. There's no reason to roll this because I know he can't make it. And if you fail any of those rolls, if you only failed 1, you would still take 3 hits. I only mention this over and over again because that's a part that confuses a lot of new players in this game. Because usually the successes necessary and the hits are the same, which causes people to assume that if they make some of these, they won't take all those hits. But that's not the way the game works. So he has to roll for 3 separate hits. What that means is he has to roll 3 dice of his health type. Because he's an ally, his health type is only 3d6. So we have to roll 3d6. He has to make... 4s are always a success in this game. So that's what you're looking for, is to roll 4s. I don't need to roll 4 dice, though. 3 dice. He has to roll all 3 of the, and he did. He's got 2 4s and a 6. He passes all of those. I'm sorry. Those were for his health, for his hit rolls. What that means is he doesn't take any of the hits. Again, if he failed any of those, he would have only received 1 actual health. Even though the number of the 3 hits just means the number of dice you're rolling. But if he failed all 3, he'd still only take 1 hit. He made all 3, he rolled over 4, so he's fine. So he can go ahead and make his action. I'm going to go ahead and keep him alongside of the boss over here. Now those are my 3 carded activations, so I can move the other 2 in the normal fashion. We'll go ahead and move Lumpy to support Driscoll. I'll go ahead and move Troy to support Driscoll as well. And that ends our first turn. On a normal game, we would now, in this game, we now go to the recovery phase. If we had anybody who was wounded, this is where you would roll to see if they recover, and we'll cover that when it actually comes up. So this begins turn 2. Again, the bot league, the Legio Patria Nostra shall go first. I'm going to go ahead and activate our Captain LaForge, the leader of that group, first. He pulls his card. He gets hesitation. This character cannot perform any actions and cannot run until the end of this turn. So basically, LaForge loses his action for this turn. So we'll go ahead and try to activate his sidekick. That is McGowan, just inside the doorway there. McGowan also has to pull a card. Decoy. Roll the challenge below. The challenge below is roll 2 success with might or finesse. For Alex McGowan, his finesse is 3d6. His might is 2, so we'll go ahead and do the 3d6. He needs at least 2 successes. He only gets 1 success. He gets a 5, 3, and a 2. That's only 1 success. This card gives a different aspect up on the top there. Decoy effects roll the challenge below. If you fail, this character cannot run during this activation. So he's only limited to not being able to run. I don't think he was going to run anyway. He thought about, well, they're all still out of range. I think what I'll do, I'll start moving over this direction towards that ox card. Now, I need to move a third person. A little trick you can do. I do have to move in the order. I should have moved him first. I made a mistake there. I forgot how that works. He should have been the first one to go, this being Martel, because he is closest to the enemy. So he should have actually been the first. He also has that double down card, so I have to pull 2 cards on him. He should have gone before LaForge. Oh well. The first card, on guard. Roll the challenge below. So he has to roll 2 successes on might, finesse, or cunning. And that is Martel. Can you do this? 1 might, 2, yeah, he has to do 2d6. He's going to do the finesse. He only gets 1. So he's going to have to roll for 2 hits. No, he doesn't. Again, this is like the last one. It's got the pass and the fail on the top. Fail, he cannot move during the activation. So he can't move, but it doesn't say he can't do anything else. So he's going to go ahead and see what the second card said. The second card is the key. Instead of rolling for this character's next challenge, peril, plot point, or so on, you automatically pass the check. He gets to keep that. He gets to keep that card because that's when he actually uses it. So he cannot move, but he can take another action. I don't think there's much we can... Might both shoot. No, everybody is still out of range and he can't move. So that's the end of his activation. Those are our first 3 activations. So now we can just go ahead and move figures. So we're going to go ahead and we'll move Samson. No, Samson's going to stay to cover his buddy, cover his boss. Now, that still counts as being activated. You cannot ever choose not to activate a character. Doc is going to go ahead over here with McGowan, and Marcel will go join. And so that brings us to the end of their activation. Let's go over and see what the Venture Cruise will do. So now we activate the Venture Cruise. We're going to go ahead and activate the captain first. The captain has just taken that one successful plot point. So now I pulled his card. He gets a double down, draw and play 2 solo cards on the enemy closest to this character, much like the other one. That is still going to be poor Martel. So we'll put that on there to remind us of that. I think Driscoll can probably take that other point. So we're going to go ahead and move at a run over to the cover The way shooting works is that anytime you are shot, you have a response you can make. So Martel here, he can either dodge or he can return fire. Because this is the first firing of the game, I think he's going to go ahead and return fire. So Captain Inglehorn gets 3d10. That's his normal to hit. Martel, his shoot is 2d6. I'm going to go ahead and roll these all together since they're different dice. So that's a 5, a 7, and a 9 for Inglehorn, and a 5 and a 1. We'll just get rid of the 1 because that's a complete failure. Now, the shooter does have an opportunity here. If he wants, he can avoid taking any shots himself. Because he's the active shooter, he could use this 5 to stop that 5. What that means is those 2 dice are removed. He can do this because they're both successes, but because it's the same as what he rolled, or any of these would have worked as well being higher, he can actually block that fire. He can either decide that he wants to do 3 hits on Martel and take 1, or he could put this on here, block that fire, which is what he's going to do, and therefore Inglehorn takes no hits. But there's only 2 hits on Martel. So Martel has to roll his health for 2 hits. Martel is an ally, so he has D6. He has D6s for success. So go ahead and roll those. He makes them both. So Martel does not take any damage. But Martel is fired. They both fired. Anytime you're involved in combat, either a brawl or a shooting, you get a little marker that shows that you have activated. These can stack up and work against you. They reduce the die available to you unless you have some ability that prevents that. So that's the first action. We're going to go ahead and pull a card for Driscoll, who's going to try to play for her plot. Take 2. Whenever you normally draw a card for this character's activation, you must draw and play 2 solo cards. That's a little rough. Solo cards aren't always bad, but when you're pulling 2, you have a better chance of it. And that is on Jane Driscoll till the end of the game, unless something takes that off. So Driscoll is going to have to pull 2 cards from now on. She can avoid that by not activating as one of the first 3 characters. But we're going to go ahead and play the plot point now, the plot point for the corrupt official. The plot point is a challenge with 1 cunning. Jane Driscoll's cunning is 2d6, so it's not her best skill, but she can probably do that. Let's see. She does not. She's going to take, she only had to roll 1. She did make it. So she takes that, and now she can play the plot point itself. The plot point challenge. Okay, this is worth bringing up. We haven't had one of these cards yet. This is the new versions of the cards. The ones I've been reading have said, in this case it would say 3 successes for challenge. On the new cards, the number that's down here, the old cards still have a number down there, but it used to be used for random number determination. But now, if it doesn't have a number listed here, you just use that. So this means she has to roll 3, might, finesse, or cunning. That's going to be a challenge. Yes, as I thought, she cannot do this. She cannot do this. So she is going to end up having to roll for 3 hits. She is a sidekick, so she rolls on d8s right now. She's an unwounded sidekick. Oh, I'm sorry. This is playing for a plot point. What I said earlier, she doesn't actually take the hit. I'm still going to put this card down here. I'm going to put a marker on here to remind me. Oh, I should roll. So she did make 1. So I'll put a little blue marker down here to tell me that she is partially towards getting that plot point. Those are our first 2 activations. For 3, we're going to go ahead and activate Hayes over here. Hayes gets Retaliate. This is an interesting card. Retaliate gives this character, when he decides to use the card, a +1 die to his brawl or to his shoot bonus. However, once he uses it, this then goes to the closest enemy that's not down to be used against us. So I'll put that under Ben Hay and keep that in mind for later. And Ben, I'm going to go ahead and move Ben over with the captain. And don't really want to get Lumpy or Choi into the fight right now. They could help here, but they would have to do that peril, and they're not likely to survive the peril, being an ally and a follower. So I think I'm going to take cover back here is what I'll do right now. They both move, take cover there, and that ends turn 2. Nobody is wounded, so we don't have any recovery rolls to make, so we can go directly to turn number 3. So now we do turn number 3. We activate the French. We're going to begin. We have to activate. This is a mistake I made last turn. It's got to be the closest to one of our people. That's going to be Alex McGowan there. So I pull a card for Alex. Actually, Alex is missing clue. Roll the challenge below. So he has to roll 2 successes on finesse or cunning. His finesse or cunning is 3d6 for finesse. Cunning is 3d8. Oh, we'll go ahead and use cunning then. 3d8. He only needs 2 successes. And he has 3 successes. So, pass. This character gains 1 dice bonus when rolling for any plot point until the end of the scenario. He's got some really good cards piling up here for him. He needs to take something. And he's not really in a good place to do that. He's going to go ahead and run over to the beggar. He can get to the beggar, but again, because he ran, he can't actually play it right now. But he's going to have no trouble taking that with those cards that he has over there. The next closest is going to be the dock. So we've been left out in the dark there. Pass it on. Draw and play 1 additional solo card on the next character you activate this turn. Oh yeah, no, we're fine. That'll be Marcel. Marcel can handle that. The doc wasn't really expecting that. I'm going to go ahead and pull the doc back here so that he can do his job if he needs to. Actually, let's bring the doc over here because Marcel might be in trouble soon. And the doc has to be in base-to-base contact with a character to use his doctoring ability. So we're going to go ahead and move them there. Marcel has to go next, and I had to pull 2 for him. So the first is held in place. He does not do that. First card is held in place, so he does not move. And the second card, Furious. Roll the challenge below. He has to roll 2 cunning or might. That's not something he's likely to be able to do. His cunning and might. Again, followers are really low on scores. His might's a d6, his cunning's a d6. So he cannot make this. So he fails, and the character must rush the closest enemy if able. He's not able because he cannot move because of that first card. So he's stuck there. Now we can move or activate Martel there. Martel is going to move into cover of that well. This orange disc should have come off in the recovery phase. However, it's going to go right back on now anyway, because I'm going to go ahead and fire. We're going to go ahead and fire at Jane Driscoll. Driscoll shoots at 3d8. And Martel is at 2d6. 2d6 against 3d8. So that's 2 successes for Driscoll, 2 successes for Martel. Martel has to roll d6s. He fails. Martel gets, oh, he already has his marker for having shot, but he takes a marker for getting hit. He's actually down because he's not high enough. We have to roll d8s for Driscoll. Driscoll also takes a hit. So in Driscoll's case, Driscoll being at d8, what now happens is she goes down, her health goes down to a d6, and any ability she has that rolled higher dice, like in her case, that shot just now was a 3d8, it's now going to be on 6s until she heals that back on a recovery roll. So that's where that sits with her. That's Driscoll, who hasn't moved. Forge hasn't moved. Forge needs to get that plot point, so we'll go ahead and play the plot point of the beggar. He gets challenge, 1 might or finesse. This should be an easy one for Forge. Might or finesse. His finesse is 2d8, his might is 2d10. We'll go ahead and roll the might. 2d10. That's 2 8s. You only needed 1, so no problem with the peril. Now for actually playing the plot point. He only needs 1 might or finesse. Again, 2d10. And he only needed 1. He has 1. So he gets that plot point. He takes the beggar boy. And his reward, while holding this plot point, as an action for this character, you may discard 1 fortune card. Again, doesn't matter. But he'll get a plus to his experience at the end of the game to help level him up quicker. And he gets, of course, a plot point towards victory in the scenario. And lastly, we have Samson. Samson's going to go ahead and seek cover behind the ox cart, and that ends their activations. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and activate the Adventures crew. We're going to start with our hero. Our hero's going to pull his card first off. Watch your head. This character encounters a peril immediately. Now, this is good. This is, I mentioned earlier, he has danger sense. He automatically passes the first peril. So he could have made this peril anyway, but he's not going to even have to roll for it because he does have danger sense. He saw that coming. He's going to go ahead and just come to here, so he's in cover of that vehicle. And he's going to go ahead and shoot at LaForge. Inglehorn's shoot is 3d10. We are not in close range yet, but we are getting close. Now, LaForge can return fire, and he's going to. His fire is also 3d10, but because our hero is in cover, he loses a die, LaForge does. We're going to have to roll these separately, or I got a dead goat. We'll roll first for Inglehorn. Inglehorn gets 3 hits. Now we'll roll for LaForge. LaForge gets 2 hits. Now, Inglehorn has a 6, 7, and a 4. 7, 6, 4. And LaForge has a 10 and a 4. I could even the odds a little bit better here, and I'm going to. I'm going to use the 4 to block LaForge's 4. So LaForge only has 1 hit on Inglehorn. Inglehorn has 2 in reverse. So we'll go ahead and roll first for LaForge to see if he takes those hits, his health roll. He makes both of those. And we will roll for Inglehorn. Inglehorn makes his. So I have to put the multi-combat marker on Inglehorn. I'm not putting one. That's not LaForge. I moved the. Okay. Well, that changes things a little. Let's go back and start over. There's three. It's going to be 3 dice. Captain Inglehorn is going to take a shot on Alex McGowan over here, trying for that plot point. He has a 3d6 to hit. McGowan is going to return fire. He normally gets 2d6, but because Inglehorn is in cover, he's going to drop down to only 1d6. So that's a 10, 9, and an 8. It's a good roll for Inglehorn. And McGowan's return shot is a 6. I'm going to go ahead. I could stop that, but I'm going to go ahead and let that go through. So Inglehorn has to roll 1 die on a d10 because that's his health. 5, no problem at all. Whereas McGowan has to roll 3d6. That's a success. Those 2 are not. So we put markers, orange markers, to show that they've been involved in a combat. McGowan, however, has also taken a hit. So he gets a red 1 and he drops his dice down from a d8 to a d6. He is now wounded. And we'll go ahead and activate our second. I forgot to do a recovery roll for Driscoll. We'll go ahead and activate Driscoll. Driscoll gets against the clock. The scenario is extended by 1 additional turn. Normally, games are 6 turns. There's some exceptions. But that card means that this game will now be, unless something else changes by the end of it, that this game will be a 7-turn game. Now she'll go ahead and try to play. She's got to do a danger roll for trying to play the plot point. She gets 2 cunning or might. Her cunning is 2d. They're both 2d6. She'll go ahead and try to do that. She does not. She's going to take 2 hits. She's already down to d6. So she fails one of those. So she does take another hit. That's not good news for Driscoll. 2 hits on a sidekick means that she is down. And who are we going to move next? Do we want to do Hayes? Yeah, Hayes is going to go ahead and move out. Move out here towards the goats. He's going to go ahead and fire himself at still not within 6. Hayes isn't as good a shot. Hayes only gets a d6. He's going to have return fire. Oh no, he's not, because he is. He's going to get return fire from McGowan, which is 2d6, except he's already involved in a combat. This is what those mean. The orange markers showing that he's already been involved in 1 combat, that reduces a die. So he's going to only get 1 dice. So that's for Hayes is a success. They're both successes. Hayes could block this if he wants. It's dangerous because he's an ally. I'm going to go ahead and risk it. So they both get multi-combat markers, and they both have to roll. I'll roll for LaForge first, for his health roll. What do they get? He makes his. Hayes rolls for his, and Hayes does not make his. This is why I said that was risky. Hayes takes a hit. He's only got the 1, the d6 roll, so he is knocked down, or he is down. Okay, that leaves us with Troy and Lumpy way over here, and they may need to hold still for a moment. Things are a little risky for them. So, recovery rolls. This is what we forgot to do last time. I've got to roll a d6 for Driscoll. You roll to roll recovery to either save somebody who's down or to raise back up for the higher level characters. Is they have to roll their health roll. The health roll is based on whatever their health roll is at the time, or a d6 if they're down. So I'll roll for Driscoll first. She needs a success. She doesn't get it. That is bad, because that means that Driscoll is knocked down. Driscoll is out of the game. Well, that's rough. That's more like, that kind of thing is more typical for the lower level characters. We're going to roll for Hayes. Hayes is knocked down. This is not going well for the heroes. We're going to roll for LaForge over there. LaForge. Now, LaForge is he failed his roll, but he's not knocked down. He's down from D8 to D6. So if he had made that roll, he would have gone back up to D8, but he's not out of the game. Martell, on the other hand, needs to make this roll, and he didn't. We did really badly on our health rolls that turn. Didn't somebody have a... Oh. Hayes actually had a retaliate card, which should have given him an additional die on his to hit. I'm going to go ahead and roll that. That was a hit. He was shooting at Martell. Martell has to roll his health. He failed that. So Martell actually would have needed to make his roll, which he... Well, I'm going to re-roll it because he didn't know that. But he did fail it, and that means this card does not go to... well, it goes to the clear, next. It goes to the clear, so it doesn't have to go to him. That would have been him. That comes off now. That was a bloody, bloody turn. Not a lot of recovery rolls made. So that brings us to the end of that episode played solo. But that's how the game is played. I hope you enjoyed that portion of the video. If you're interested in Pulp Alley or any pulp gaming in general, I recommend Pulp Alley very heavily. It's very, very flexible. There's more information both on the Pulp Alley channel here on YouTube and on the Pulp Alley webpage. Thank you very much. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit like or subscribe, and we thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for watching. Until next time, cheers.